Hello YouTube, this is Magnitude Gaming here with the next episode on the history of competitive play in Yu-Gi-Oh! I apologize for the absence. With the combination of work and I guess we can say personal matters, I'd just been unmotivated to post or too busy. However, I hope to get back into posting and catching up. I appreciate the 700 subscribers. I didn't think I'd be anywhere close to this when I started posting a year ago. Last time we left off was SJC Columbus. The dust was just settling after Iman Ganyan ran through a gauntlet to become the newest champion in the Shonen Jump circuit. While Iman was a rising star, he certainly wasn't the only one. More duelists would continue to make names for themselves. Things were getting interesting, just weeks before the U.S. National Championship in San Francisco. Sometime between SJC Columbus and U.S. Nationals, the landscape began to change. At some point, Team Scoop dissolved. I'm not sure if it happened right before or right after SJC Columbus, but sadly it happened. The team had been crushing the scene since Boston 2005, with 2 titles. They had members of various tops. Carlos Santiago had topped the previous event, giving him his 4th top. I'm not sure what happened to Santiago or members Quincy Gordon or Justin Gillison, but Paul Leviton and Shane Scurry would eventually join forces with another dominant tri-state team, Team Overdose. Speaking of Overdose, Iman Ganyan had just joined the team. From my knowledge, he was the first player outside the tri-state to represent the team, as Iman's from California. The already Goliath team now had representation from the West. With his departure, Team Naruto just fell off the map. Brent Yoder had actually joined Team Scoop recently, after having played for Team Hunger Force. Now he was playing for Team Rampage, adding himself to their stacked roster, with players like Chris Flores and Nareg Tarosian, former SJC champions, Roberto Martinez, one of the best players in Connecticut, and of course Jonathan LaBounty, the #1 player in Connecticut. Players were changing teams and decks were changing too. Royal Decree was becoming a staple. As with Columbus, the card was seen in decks, often as a single copy or even in 3s. Since Chaos Return was a thing, it was a great way to stop Return from a different dimension. Creature Swap was seeing play. It was a way to trade in your useful effect monsters like Merchant, Magician, Faith, or Dekoichi to get a bigger monster. And Morphing Jar was now a staple too, or becoming a staple, it was getting there. The meta just completely moved away from Don Zalug, and multiple copies of Spear Reaper. As a result, Dark World monsters weren't really being used, so this card returned to the decks of many players. Let's take a look at the top 8. Adam Baxter was in his first top 8 finish. He played for a team, but he himself wasn't sure of the name. His team had changed their name numerous times. Baxter wasn't playing Book of Moon or Morphing Jar. He also cut Dekoichi to 1, something many players are doing now. This could be because of the rise of Nobleman of Crossout and just losing your copies every single time. Baxter had quite a run to get into the top 8, beating established players like Edgar Flores, Matt Lawrence, and Justin Gillison. Ben Bradley was also making his first top 8 appearance. He teched an Injection Fairy Lily and even main Pot of Avarice. Avarice would eventually go on to be quite essential in the format and in many decks for years to come. He had to deal with Brain Control as a tech. Strange, he didn't seem to play too many tribute monsters. Ben Bradley's only loss in Swiss was to Jeffrey Ogaro. Jeffrey Ogaro was also in top 8 actually, making his top 8 debut. Ogaro was going for a consistency here. He played 3 Dekoichis and 3 Spear Reapers, and only 1 Zaborg. Instead of overpowering his opponent, Ogaro was looking to gain advantage and have good board presence. Ogaro went undefeated in Swiss before losing to Brent Yetter. Brent Yetter topped his second SJC event, and 3rd event overall after making top 8 in last year's Nationals. He went undefeated going 9-0 in Swiss. Brent was playing for Team Rampage. He played Treeborn Frog, which still wasn't a staple in every deck yet. However, it had been seen in most side decks at the very least. He also went all in, with 3 Dekoichis and siding 3 Decrees. You would see this trend in the format where players would either side or main deck 2 to 3 copies of Royal Decree while cutting down on traps. Also playing for Team Rampage was Edgar Flores. This may have been Edgar Flores' first top 8 finish, but he was well known in the East Coast scene. He had performed well at regionals in an era where only top 4 got their invites. Flores had a few things going on in his deck. I liked his choice of Monarchs, giving himself control and power by playing Thestalos. He hoped to use his opponent's monsters by using Soul Exchange and Brain Control. His 3 Royal Decrees would shut down any traps that got in his way. Team Super Friends Dale Bolito had another top 8 under his belt. Bolito was looking to defend his title, as he had won SJC Chicago 2005 with his Tomato Control deck. He played 2 Tomatoes in his deck, and also played Morphing Jar. Instead of using Royal Decree, he went with 2 Dust Tornadoes. It's a good way to destroy traps and not lock yourself out of using your own. Mark Johnson was in his first top 8 finish. He played Twin-Headed Behemoth. The card became more common in decks, but I can't say for sure if it was ever a staple. We've definitely seen it in other decks before though. He opted the main deck Treeborn Frog. He sided a small Monarch package, even playing Grandmarg. Grandmarg wasn't necessarily great, but I personally liked the card. Then there was Robert Morgan. Robert Morgan was now playing for Team Extreme, and this was his 2nd straight top 8 finish. Morgan was just getting started with an impressive 2006. Morgan went in with 3 Chaos Sorcerers and also played Last Will. I forgot what happened during this era, but I know Last Will was errated. it did see some sort of play for a good amount of time. Up until Cybersign, I think. I believe he was the only duelist in top 8, mainly Mystic Swordsman level 2. Every other duelist opted to decide it. This bracket had more established players on one side, while the other side had players who were topping their first event. This event looked to be Rampages for the taking, but Bolito was looking for his second title, and Robert Morgan was looking to follow up on his previous performance. In top 8, teammates Flores and Yetter had to play each other. A torrential tribute cleared the field, and then the next turn Breder used the Call the Haunted to beat Flores. Bolito and Morgan had to play each other too. This was a duel of two established Canadian teams, as Bolito was playing for Super Friends and Morgan was playing for Team Extreme, although Morgan himself was from Michigan. Dale summoned Jinzo and there was nothing to protect Morgan from the attack, and Morgan conceded to give Bolito the match. Jeffrey Algaro beat Mark Johnson and Adam Baxter beat Ben Bradley to round out the top 8. Top 4 now had Brent Yetter playing Dale Bolito and Jeffrey Algaro playing Adam Baxter. Adam Baxter won his match and was going to the finals. In the final game of their match, Dale Bolito had a terrible opening hand and drew very few monsters. I think he only had like one monster in his hand. There's nothing he could do to stop Brent Yetter's monsters, and Brent Yetter won the match to head to the finals. Yetter had a Nationals top and an SJC top. He was hoping that the third time would be the charm. Meanwhile, Adam Baxter was hoping to take the title in his first Day 2 appearance. The first game was something out of the ordinary for sure. Baxter bricked with no monsters. Yetter didn't have a great hand either, but he managed to attack with Sangan for 4 turns to deal 4,000 damage. Eventually, Torrential Tribute was triggered and Yetter lost Sangan, which let him search. Yetter cleared Baxter's board and used Call 100 to bring back Sangan again. Yetter then summoned Jinzo with Smashing Ground to clear Baxter's field, and Baxter knew it was over. The second game was Yetter who drew poorly. Baxter summons a Borg hitting Treeborn Frog and attacked for damage. Yetter tried to steal it the next turn with Snatch Steal, but Baxter chained enemy control to tribute it. On Baxter's turn, he summoned Chaos Sorcerer to remove the frog, and summoned Mystic Swordsman level 2 to destroy Spirit Reaper. Yetter had no way to stop all those monsters, and he conceded. Game 3. This game was back and forth. Both duelists were opting to go for advantage. Baxter looked to be in a good spot when he used his Mystic Swordsman level 2 to destroy Yetter's Mystic Tomato. However, Yetter went all in on his turn. He used Premature Burial to bring back his Dekoichi, and used Snatch Heal to take Yetter's Swordsman, and then summoned his own Tsukuyomi. All of his monsters attacked to finish off Baxter and end the game. Yetter did it. He gave Team Rampage another title, and not just that, he became, I believe, the second or third duelist to ever go undefeated in Swiss and then win it all. Yetter finally solidified himself as one of the top players in the country, and I believe this led to him even being ranked as the best player in North America. That does it for this episode, guys. Our next episode is going to cover the 2006 U.S. Nationals. That's the T for Magnitude, guys. Thank you so much for watching.